you scared?
You're listening to the Blair Witch Podcast, Episode 8, with your host, Taylor. Just Taylor. Brings me to my first point of the night. Unfortunately, for most of the episodes from now on, it is just going to be me. Why, do you ask? Well, if you haven't noticed, it's been almost a year now since we've released any episodes. Why is that? Because I've moved to a completely different state, got a new job, and Alexandra also got a job. So we are working completely different schedules now. She works during the day, I work at night. It sucks. So I decided instead of letting the podcast die, I will be doing it on my own and eventually reintroduce her back into the series. And I'm trying, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm talking a little bit on the quieter side. And it's not because I'm trying to do a new ASMR video. It's because my neighbors are trying to kill me. No, I'm kidding. They're not. No. It is because it's 2 a.m. and this is the best time I can record. So I hope you like my sexy voice. Hopefully I'll be recording another episode on Saturday. I could record it during the day, make my voice nice and loud. So, down to brass tacks. As Saul Goodman would say a million times in this show, I decided to watch a little movie called Eli. And it's just Eli, E-L-I. That is it. Imagine how hard it is Googling information on that freaking movie. Get a bunch of people named Eli instead of the movie. Looks like it came out in 2019, directed by some Irish guy. I can't pronounce his name. Ciarán Foy. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Siren. There's a little tilde in the second A. Little thing I found on Netflix. I reached out to some people online trying to find out hidden gems, I guess you could say. Because, I mean, if you're like me, you go through Netflix and you're scrolling and you start seeing the same movie pop up a million times and you're like, no, I don't want to watch freaking people make cake. I want to find a good movie. Well, sometimes you got to do a little digging. Sometimes you got to go a little digging off-site. Off-site digging. Don't need a permit. Just throw cast your line. There's too many metaphors. I'm done. Anyway, I found this movie called Eli, and when I saw the year, you kind of, if you're anything like me, you see kind of anything after 2015, you get a little weary, especially when it gets a little closer to the current year, 2021, because there's not a lot of great movies coming out recently, if you know what I mean. 5.7 out of 10 is what IMDb gives this movie. What is this movie about, you might be asking? Well, IMDb says, a boy receiving treatment for his autoimmune disorder discovers that the house he's living in isn't as safe as he thought. Which I guess that is pretty basic. My takeaway, Eli is about a young boy who has a lot of health issues. They set it up pretty early on in the movie. If you watch the trailer, he's in like one of those protective suits. And he's in a tent, so germs can't get inside, can't get him sick. It's about this boy and the parents, I guess, are like broke and they're trying to find a cure for their son. So they take him to some experimental doctor who lets him live in this sterile house while she works on him, trying to find the cure. Or she has the cure. I don't remember how it conveyed during the trailer. Definitely took a lot of notes on this movie. but the premise sounded interesting. I went into this without watching the trailer first, which is kind of what I don't do. I'm trying out something new. I would always watch the trailer, and I would get kind of, I don't know, weary. Like, this doesn't look too good. But there's been plenty of movies where I watch the trailer and then it ends up being decent, even though the trailer looked really bad. So I decided, you know what? I'm not even going to watch a trailer for this. I watched the trailer after I saw the movie because I'm like, I want to see if they lined up. Gotta say, not at all. If you watch the trailer, you kind of get the gist of it, but there is way more to this movie than the trailer lets on. The trailer makes it look like just a cliche horror movie, but it kind of is a cliche horror movie, so maybe that's not a good example. It makes it seem like it's just a haunted house, and it has nothing to do with the illness that this kid has. Two separate things, but you find out maybe that's not entirely true. I won't give any spoilers away yet. I'll give you my quick takeaway. Overall, the movie is decent, which I don't say too often anymore. No, this movie wasn't too bad. I wanted to hate it, which I hate saying, but I try to go into movies with a straight head. But no, I mean, I thought it wasn't going to be great, but I gotta say it started very strong. Honestly, it kind of seemed a little cliche in the beginning, but they did a couple new things, some fresh takes, you know. I won't get into the nitpicky stuff just yet, but very good scenes. I mean, there's some scares that, honestly, like, I had goosebumps. Some really well shot things. The cinematography was really good. The acting was really good, other than, I hate to say, but the father wasn't that great. The father being named Max Martini. Maybe he had a little bit too many martinis on set, if you know what I mean. Of course you know what I mean. It's an alcoholic joke. Kelly Riley, as the mother, does a fantastic job. And little Charlie Shotwell, playing the main character Eli. Gotta say, he did a very good job. Did a very good job. Looks like he hasn't been in too much. Started in like 2014, it looks like. He was in The Comedians, Captain Fantastic, which I haven't seen. Pretty much a bunch of small titles until this movie. Child actors here. Wow, fucking child actors here. You know what? I'm done. Quit the podcast industry. I'm done. Child actors tend to be like hit or miss, in my opinion. You know, they're usually some stinkers. You could tell, like, there's a director off screen being like, "Don't smile, act angry." They used to do a pretty bad job, but gotta say they did a very good job directing this kid. He did a very good job acting. I gotta say, I mean, there's some scenes where I was like, damn, I feel fear for this kid and he's not even real. My biggest gripe with this movie is the ending, and I won't spoil it still, not yet. The ending, I mean, everything was so strong building up this movie, building up the characters, building up the setting. But then I think the second he gets to the house, I started being like, okay, it seems a little, I don't know, something seems weird and different. But I'll suffer through. It's alright, it's still good. The ending, I don't know, I think it suffers from we really need to do like some crazy plot twist, or, you know, I think this is something that plagues a lot of newer horror movies, which is really unfortunate because this movie was set up very well, and the ending kind of doesn't kind of skirt in its tracks. It kind of redirects in a different way. the whole movie you're thinking one certain way, and in the end, it almost kind of changes genre almost. I mean, it's obviously a horror movie, but I'd say it's more of like a psychological horror for most of it. Then the ending, it kind of just delves into nonsensical horror. And I'll get more into it when I talk about the ending, but I guess overall I would say I recommend it. Go check it out right now if you don't want to wait for the spoilers. You can always come back after you've done watching it and listen to me. If you don't care about all that shit, then listen to me right now. Eli 2019. Eli 2019. Syrian Foy. Alright, let's go through these notes. First thing I said right off the bat when I watched the movie, this kid is a good actor. Now, I listed a couple things he was in. I have not seen him in any of those things. None of those projects. This is the first movie I've seen this kid, and usually that's a bad sign for me, but right off the bat, I think it starts with him. A flashback maybe of him falling in the grass, and he's his body starts being covered in sores and it's turning red, and he starts screaming at his family who's in the distance just out of reach. Then he wakes up in this little tent. It's like an altitude tent, but they're a poor family. I don't know if it necessarily qualifies as like a sterile environment, but I digress. It's a movie. Beginning is very good. Sets everything up very quickly. I mean, it's pretty obvious the kid is sick. He's in a fucking tent in a motel. This is the part that was kind of hard for me to understand. I think the parents talk about, oh, we have to bring you to this place. This woman is the only one that can cure you. She's done it before. That's what the dad says. This woman's cured 10 other kids. I believe it was 10. And they're broke, so they're like living in shitty motels. The dad can't pay for it. He hands the guy a pile of cash, and the guy's like, oh, pay for 2 days. He was like, we were only there for 1 day. The guy like taps the sign that says, if you check out after 9, it counts as a second day. He's like, ugh. And the guy's like, nice watch. And then the dad obviously gives him the watch. Yada yada, cliche. We get it, you're poor, you can't afford this, you spend no expense saving your child. Where it starts to get weird. There's a lot of like weird scenes. Most of it is good. But then there's like weird scenes that seem like they throw everything off a little bit. So they're coming out of the motel, and there's like this group of hillbillies, like adults, parked in a trailer outside of this motel, and they're just chilling there, drinking beers. There's like 6 of them. Like they just hang out in front of this trailer park staring at the motel parking lot all day. And they start making fun of this kid who's coming out of the motel in like one of those hazmat suits. It's all duct taped and whatnot. And they're making fun of him. And I'm like, who does this? Like, what group of adults makes fun of a poor little kid who's obviously having a hard time with his health? Like, it's clear something's wrong with this kid. It's not like he's dressed up for Comic-Con and the parents are bringing him there. Like, there's something obviously wrong. And these adults are just like howling at him and laughing, calling him Spaceman. And if that wasn't enough, they're like, I think that's like firecrackers they're throwing at the kid. They legit like light firecrackers and throw them at the kid's fucking like his feet. And it makes the kid trip and like rip his suit open, and he freaks out. And the parents don't do anything. The dad, I'm like, yo, the dad's gonna run over and beat their fucking ass. And he doesn't do anything. He just looks over at him and is like, who the hell does that to kids? How could you do that? I'm like, bro, if my son had issues and a fucking group of adults started throwing firecrackers at my son, I would be John fucking Wick. I'd be like, pop, 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 pop. No, but the parents don't do anything. Dad gets in the car. The mom, like, talks to the kid. This is where I get, like, okay. Let me talk to you about this for a second. So basically, the kid gets a rash because the suit's torn open. He starts turning red, starts getting the hives, and the mom, like, talks him out of it. Which, I know what happens in the movie, so I know why now, but when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, hives don't just go away because you're, like, focusing on your breathing. It's not how shit works. The kid's allergic to the world. He doesn't just magically make him go away. Doesn't make sense. She keeps going through this thing with him, like, oh, blow out the birthday candles in your head. Make a wish. What did you wish for? And he's like, I wish I could kill those guys. Mom's like, no, make a different wish. I'm like, oh my god. Foreshadowing. And then right off the bat, there's like religious undertones. They drive away, they see the billboard in the top left of the screen, and it's some Bible verse about being lied to. And I'm like, oh, pretty obvious it's gonna have some sort of religious twist. It's their attempt at foreshadowing, which wasn't too in your face, but so they pull up to a random big ass house. That's what I wrote. Because at first I thought they're literally staying at some cabin. Like, oh, my brother owns this cabin. It's like this really nice old house. It's like huge. But there's no cars. There's literally no vehicles. And it's like a straight up driveway. So there's no parking garage. There's no place in the back to park. You drive right up to the house. And there's no vehicles there. But there's a nurse. And there's staff. And there's this family. So, kind of confused why there was only one car. But whatever. And it was also weird because no one came out to greet them. They show up at this house, which is why I was so confused. Like, oh my god, do they know somebody? Is this just like a stop on the way? No. They go right up to the main door. They go through. Actually, they make Eli go through on his own. And then it ends up being like a hyperbaric chamber. It shoots him. It blasts him with like purified air, I guess. And then he has to walk through to the doctors, and then his parents come in behind him, which I thought was kind of odd. Why not just go in together? There's really no reason why the kid needed to be on his own in there. I don't get it. Where the fuck did all these people park? The nurse. It's like a nurse and like 2 or 3 staff members. Or not, it's the main person, the main doctor, and then 2 or 3 staff members. I'm like, you just walk to work because there's like no other houses around, but you just parachute in? Who knows? So my second point, there's ominous horror music throughout, well, what I thought was just the beginning of the movie, but throughout the whole movie, the atmosphere they're trying to set is like horror the whole entire time, which I didn't like. I like it when movies kind of play it straight, like have kind of curious music. You don't really know what's going on. There's no horror set up yet. He's just a sick kid and he's going to this house where he's going to get a cure, hopefully. And they're playing like really atmospheric, tension building, but nothing's happening. So I thought that was odd. So he gets the grand door of the house, and the doctor's like, you can take your suit off, it's fine in here, but he doesn't trust her yet, which is important. And the design of the house is kind of weird. I didn't like it at first, but I actually kind of grew to like it. It's a really old house, and the doctor says that she bought it so she could repurpose it into a sterile environment for kids like him. He could go in and he can, like, you know, walk around and live his life without wearing a suit, which is cool. What was weird is that there's still like old furniture in the old rooms, but covered in sheets, and then rooms were like completely blocked off by glass. So it'd be like one straight hallway of glass walls, but there was like still stuff on the other side, just never to be touched. There's no doors, there's nothing to get to that stuff, so it's just gonna sit there forever and rot. And I was like, that's kind of odd. You'd think if you bought an old house like that to repurpose, you would use and utilize every room. But no, she was just like, fuck the living room, fuck the den, fuck the master bedroom, all that shit. Block it off with walls. I don't want to see it. Just seems like she spent way too much money on glass walls when she could have just reinforced the windows. I don't know. Whatever. It ended up being kind of cool in the end, and I'll tell you why. I'll get to that. Right off the bat, though, the kid's like staring through the glass, and the adults are like kind of far away, and he's, you know, just looking around. And I'm like, I guarantee you he's going to see something. And of course, he's looking down this long hallway through this glass wall, and he sees something like a man or a figure in the distance. And he's dark, you can't see his face, and then all of a sudden he disappears. And you're like, oh shit, this place is haunted. Which it is. And then the kid, in true horror movie fashion, says absolutely nothing, doesn't react, just kind of is like, huh, and walks away, as you do when you see a ghost in a scary house. Immediately after, because it's been 5 minutes since another religious sentiment, they make another religious mark. The woman says something about, oh, I get what I pray for. And the husband makes some dig at her saying, I've always been a faithful man, which makes sense when you find out the twist. They definitely bring it back to religion a lot. Once you forget about it, they bring it back. Some sort of comment. Window scares. Holy shit, are there window scares in this movie? Whenever you see freaking Eli next to a window, just assume there's going to be a jump scare. Way overused, but some of them were kind of cool. Like he's like, the first one, he's looking out of the window, he hears a noise in the middle of the night. And he sees like condensation on the other side of the window, like someone's breathing on it. How can that be? There's nobody outside and he's on the second floor. And he's looking at the condensation, and all of a sudden marks go like, and they make like a 3-line mark in the condensation. And of course, it wouldn't make a noise in real life, but in the movie it goes like violin, like brr. And of course he's scared by it. And that comes to my favorite part, I think, in the whole movie. The kid finally goes for his first treatment, and he has to go alone. His parents walk him to like the office, and they're like, we can't go beyond this point. Not sure why. Other than narratively, the kid has to be alone with the doctor and the nurses. And the nurses are so rude to him. This poor little kid goes in, he's all scared, and he's like asking the nurses questions, and he's just doing everything they tell him. And the nurses are just like being so rude and abrupt with him. She's just like, get on the scale, lift your arms up, do this, do that. And he's doing it. I'm like, this poor little kid. Like, obviously something weird is going on, but you're probably being paid a ton of money to quote unquote help this kid. You guys are acting like fucking assholes. I feel so bad for him. And like one of them speaks Spanish. She's taking his weight and she literally says like 666 in Spanish. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Some devil shit's happening and they're hiding it with her Spanish. But yeah, he's asking her a question and she's just like, 666 in Spanish. I was like, okay, totally just ignore the kid. Makes sense. There's some cool scenes where he's getting like buckled down while they're doing tests on him. And the camera's going around like crazy and you can feel like the anxiety that Eli's probably feeling. And then he's looking over to the side and one of the slidey chairs or spinning chairs rotates around so you get the reflective back and he sees a reflection of some sort of ominous figure. Could it be the one he saw before? I don't know, Watson. We don't know. We really don't know at this point. So rude hospital staff, he sees a figure, another window scare. The procedure's done. He doesn't feel any different, but he's in his room looking out the window again. And what do you know? Another jump scare. A lady outside throwing a rock at the window. Some crazy redhead chick from Stranger Things, probably on set during that day, decided to show up. No, just kidding. Sadie Sink. With no relation to Sadie Tub or Sadie Toilet from Stranger Things. She tells Eli, come outside. To which Eli says, bitch, I can't. Like, obviously something is wrong with me. The fuck? Like, you think I live in a big glass house because my family's rich? The fuck? He talks to her and she tells him like, oh, she's kind of rude to him, honestly, just like the nursing staff. He's like trying to show her magic. Like he's like, kind of like, I don't know if he's flirting, but he's trying to show off. She was like, wow, that's kind of shitty. And I'm like, yo, leave this fucking kid alone. He's obsessed with magic. He's trying to make you happy and you're fucking shooting him down every chance you get. And I believe another window scare. I don't remember if it was the same night. But he's in his room. It always happens in his room by the window. And there's a wardrobe with a mirror on it. He looks in the mirror in the wardrobe. He sees someone hiding in the curtains. Wrapped up in the curtains. He goes over to the curtains. And he pulls them away and there's no one there. He looks back in the mirror. He sees nothing. He looks back at the window. Sees a woman. And he goes back and forth and she keeps appearing and reappearing and you're like, something's gonna happen. And of course, she looks back at the wardrobe and her hand comes from around the corner and scares him. A lot of predictable scares in this movie. I have that written down a lot. It is after this scene that the doctor tells the parents Eli is going to get worse before he gets better. The kid, Eli, finally tells his parents, like, yo, I'm seeing shit. Like, I'm having a rough time. The doctor is just saying, yeah, it's part of the process. You're just gonna lose your mind for a little bit. And naturally the parents were like, all right, I'll do whatever we gotta do. And Eli's like, I'm telling you, something weird's happening. So the doctor's goal is to have 3 treatments. He had the first one where he saw the figure. Now he's going for a second treatment. She administers it to him in his marrow, I guess. And he's taking it like a fucking champ. But then he'd do like this, straight up did like brain surgery on him, which was out of nowhere, which I thought was kind of odd. They like had his head clamped down. And they like shaved a little part of his head and drilled into it. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure you don't do that when you're injecting someone's bone marrow. Like just go straight for the skull into the brain. Doesn't make sense. But this is where I started realizing there's a lot of trust elements. Eli is like told to trust the doctors by his parents, even though he thinks something's a little fishy. But he, it's his parents. They know what's best for him, so he kind of puts up with it. So this whole movie keeps like building tension. He loses more trust. And then I'm like, oh yes, duh. It's all about faith. The kid thinks he's getting worse, but he's told to have faith in the doctors because they're doctors. They're in a position of power over him, kind of like God or priests or anybody like that in Christianity or Catholicism. Of course, after this scene, there's another mirror scare. I think he's in the bathroom and he sees a figure behind the shower curtain and he opens it. There's nothing. And then he turns into the mirror and there's someone and he reaches out and chases him. So it's kind of repetitive with these kind of scenes. And I think he gets scared and he runs into the wardrobe and shuts the door. But this time the ghost doesn't disappear and it keeps banging on the door of the wardrobe and it's rocking it around and then it flips it over while he's inside. He frickin' gets his head scrambled, which is insane. Not really. I mean, there's no gore. But he opens up the wardrobe and there's nothing there except the mirror is shattered and on the inside of the door it says Eli 1,000,000 times. And naturally, this is when the doctor and the parents come into the room like, what the fuck? What are you doing? And they see him inside of this wardrobe. And they just automatically assume he must have knocked it over. Like, wardrobes are not light. So you really think your son, like, flipped this fucking solid wood wardrobe and carved his name 30 times before you guys got there? And what bothered me about this scene is that he, all the other times he saw stuff and told his parents about it, they were like, oh, you're just hallucinating. It's part of the procedure. But for some reason this time, they're like blaming him for it. They're like, why the fuck did you do this? I was like screaming at him from the computer screen. Like, you guys realize, or in your view, he's hallucinating. So obviously it's a pretty good fucking reason why he might have done this. I mean, we know he wasn't hallucinating. But from the parents' point of view, he does this thing at the beginning of the movie. Okay, it's just part of the drugs, blah, blah, blah. He does something again. Oh, it's just the drugs. It's going to be okay. And then for some reason, the third time, they're like, what the fuck? Why would you do this? You piece of shit, son. So obviously Eli's having a rough time with his parents. Next page of notes. This is where it starts to really amp up to my favorite fucking scene in this whole movie. So Eli is in bed and I think he goes snooping around. It might be, I honestly don't remember. I think the redheaded chick tells him to come downstairs again. So he's in the hallway and he's looking at like on the other side of the glass walls. And he sees like a reflection of people. Or no. Wow, it's been a couple days. His shirt like crumples up and gets pulled to one side. And you don't see anybody, but you see his shirt get pulled. And I was like, yo, holy shit, that was cool. And then it happens again. And then it gets tugged and pulled there. And then at the bottom of his shirt. And then his pants. And all of a sudden he's getting tugged all over. And then he gets thrown to the ground. And like dragged down the hallway. And then he gets like lifted into the air by nothing. And he looks into the reflection of the glass. And he sees 4 ghosts. Like 4 kid-looking ghosts like lifting him up. But he can't see him in front of him, only in the reflection. And they drag him into the airlock chamber. And they hit the button. He's freaking out like, no. I can't go outside. It's going to kill me. And he doesn't get a chance. The door starts to open, and then all of a sudden the parents and the doctor open the door, and they're like, again, what the fuck did you do? Like, this poor kid, they're not buying the hallucinations anymore. This poor kid is like, nobody believes me, which is a big key point to the movie. Is that people keep lying to him and not trusting him, even though he's telling the truth. It's really sad. I thought there's going to be another window scare, but there wasn't, thank God. But there's a funny scene where the dad yells through his teeth, which is kind of why I thought he wasn't a great actor. The mom is obviously upset. She's doing a very good job acting upset. And the son's upset. And then the dad like yells and he's like through his teeth. And I'm like, that seems so fucking fake. But I'm not an actor, so I don't know how hard it is. It could have been real acting. He's the best actor in the world for all I know. This is when Eli is in his room. The doctors are like, we have to do the final procedure. The final procedure. And they need to put Eli out because he's a nuisance. They're like, he keeps getting up, he keeps trying to escape. We got to knock this fucking kid out to do our last procedure. And the doctor's just going to straight up go in there with a pill. And the mom's like, no. Let me do it. Let me do it. He's my son. I don't know why I turned into like a mafia. He's my son. Let me do it. She grabs the pill and she's like, he'll talk to me. He trusts me. So she goes in there and she's talking to Eli. And Eli's like, yeah, I know. I got to do it. At first, though, he's like, some shit's going on. And of course, the mom's like, I don't believe you. Which is sad. Because the mom is like the only one he trusts now. She does a magic trick to give him the pill. He takes the pill and he's laying down and he looks at the wardrobe door with his name written on the inside and realizes it doesn't say Eli, E-L-I. It's upside down. It's numbers. It's 317. I mean, 37. It's fucking, what's Eli upside down? 173. That was rough. 173. He's like, it's numbers. So the mom leaves thinking she fucking pulled a fast one on him, getting him to take that pill. But of course, Eli is smarter than that. He spits that fucking pill right out the second she closes that door. Stays up. This fucking kid. Oh my god, I love this kid. He like makes a point while everyone sleeps. And he fucking makes himself stay up until like 3 a.m. He's just sitting there in his bed. No fucking iPhone, no iPad, no Xbox, nothing. Just sitting there staring at a wall. 3 a.m. rolls around, the witching hour. Decides I'm going to take a little stroll. He walks around with a flashlight. I don't know where he found it, but he has a flashlight. He finds the medical room where they do the procedures. And guess what he types in the freaking number pad? That's right, 173. It works. It goes through. He's in. He won. Game over. Now he goes in. He sees a little file room. And this fucking kid picks the lock of the filing cabinet with 2 motherfucking paper clips. I love this kid. He read it in a magic book the night before, and he just knows how to pick locks now. That's unbelievable, and I love it. What do you think he finds? He finds a ton of folders of all the other kids that this doctor cured. But guess what? They didn't get cured. They all died. That's right. Eli's flicking through these folders, and he sees the name of the kids. And I think it was a little funny, a little childish how they set it up. The medical files were pretty simple looking, unfortunately. They didn't look very detailed. But what he learns is that there's 3 stages. The first 2 stages, the kid starts looking worse and worse. And the third stage always ends in the kid's death. He's flicking through them all. 1, 2, 3, dead. 1, 2, 3, dead. And he's like, this is where he starts putting it all together. Like, oh my God. Like, I think the ghost kids I'm seeing are the ones that she's killed. And then he's like, wait a second. I'm gonna get killed. She's not helping us. So, of course, Eli is obviously upset. And someone hears him. Someone's opening the door. He decides to hide underneath a window. A lot of window imagery in this movie. And it's one of the nurses, and she goes into the file room, and he breaks a bunch of stuff by accident, but escapes. And they're all looking for him. I'm trying to see. Yeah, he runs down the hallway, and he ends up hiding in the main doctor's bedroom, which is pretty sick. He locks the door, and he gently places a chair in front of the door so they can't open it, which I just thought was funny. And it worked because none of the grown adults decided to try to kick the door open. They decided they would try the doorknob twice, and that was it. The kid finds a photo in her bedroom of a bunch of nuns. And who do you think the front 3 or 4 nuns were? But the doctor and her nurses themselves. Big plot twist. There's something going on here. What's going on? These aren't nurses. They're nuns. Those aren't the same. They start with N, but they're not the same. Eli finds a little corridor connected to the doctor's room. And it's some weird cult shit. He's walking down these stone steps. He sees like an altar room. There's a big like dungeon door he's got to open up to get into her. And who do you think comes in behind him? But the doctor and the parents. And they shut the door behind him and lock him in. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh my God, I can't breathe. This room is not sterile. And he starts freaking out, and he's hyperventilating, and he's turning red. And the mom's like, we can't let him do this. He's going to die. And the doctor's like, we have to let him. So he passes out. And what do you know? He wakes back up. And he's fine. He doesn't have any sores. His skin isn't red. He's breathing normally. Eli wasn't sick. That's what I wrote in my notes. I was kind of stupid watching this part. Eli wasn't sick? What? And then literally right after I wrote that, Eli goes, I'm not sick, to himself. Which I thought was quite the leap for him to make. I mean, a bunch of other things could have happened. I mean, they could have sealed off the room and sterilized it. They could have injected him with something. But he just automatically jumps to, I'm not sick, and my parents have lied to me about it my whole life. So the mom, what happens? Let me tell you what happens. He realizes he's not sick. The doctor's talking to the dad while the mom's trying to get the son. The doctor's like, look, we gotta do this shit fast. So the mom goes down to see the kid, to see Eli. She's gonna talk him into doing the procedure. Eli's like passed out. And mom's like, what the hell? So she opens the door and goes to pick him up, and he's like, fucking bitch, and slaps her with a crucifix and like knocks her ass down. He runs away. He's running away. I don't even remember where he went, to be honest. But while the mom is down there, she's like, the fuck is going on in this room? And she picks up the crucifix that Eli had, and there's a dagger. There's a dagger hidden inside. She pulls it out like, why the fuck does she need a dagger? Why is there a dagger in this altar room? She looks in the center of the room and there's a big round altar. She pushes it open, and what the fuck did she see inside? But the bodies of the children that didn't make it, and they're all mummified. And the mother's like, what the fuck? She's covering her mouth. She doesn't know what's going on. She, sorry, I'm getting all worked up. I gotta fix my ass in this chair. So she freaks out. Understandably, I would freak out too if I saw a bunch of dead kids. So basically, this is where the movie starts to kind of get weird. Started putting a lot of the pieces together. But long story short, they catch Eli. They lock him down and they're like, we have to do this final procedure. The kid's like yelling, you guys knew I wasn't sick. What have you guys been doing to me? And the mother's like, I didn't realize all the kids had died. I thought you fixed them all. And the doctor's like, yeah, they all died, but this time I'm going to get it right. Eli's not going to die. And the dad is like, yo, you guys do whatever you got to do, even if Eli dies. And the mom's like, what? Hell no. Get my fucking son out of here. The dad's like, hell no. We came too far. We are not turning the fuck around. All right, bitch. And he's yelling at her, and she's like, no, my son, we have to get him out of here. And the dad's like, okay, I'll help you. So she gives him the dagger, and he's like, fucking do whatever you gotta do, doctor. Like, no one saw that coming, apparently. And the mother's freaking out, and the dad's like, we have to do this. And the doctor puts on her nun uniform, and she starts spraying him with holy water. And his skin fucking burns when the holy water touches his skin. And I was like, dear Lord, I hope this kid is not possessed, because this will be fucking totally out of left field. Turns out the kid is technically not possessed. It's much weirder than that, folks. The kid is inches away from getting stabbed by the doctor, and then all of a sudden the doctor's hand stops. She can't do it. She's freaking pushing down and it's not going. And the kid's eyes turn like fucking bright ass red. And she turns the knife on herself and fucking stabs herself in the chest. My God. And all of a sudden the kid burns through the restraints. And you're like, what is going on? And then this kid has powers now, which is it's weird. And he starts throwing around the nurses. He makes them all levitate upside down with their arms out, upside down crosses. And he's making them spin in a circle around the family. And the dad grabs the dagger and he's fucking running over to stab him. And the kid turns around and stops him and makes his whole head cave in. Oh, I'm like, yo, I don't know what's going on right now, but that scene was fucking dope. And the mom's freaking out, understandably. And the kid's like, what did you do to me? What the fuck am I? And the mom says something like, oh, I prayed and prayed because I wanted a child so bad. But the man upstairs didn't answer me, so I had to pray to someone else. The kid's like, who did you pray to? The mom's like, the other guy. You're like, oh my God, Satan fucking knocked her up, dude. This kid is the son of Satan. And he gets mad and he lights all the nurses on fire while they're still levitating and spinning. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty badass scene. But then you don't know what happens to her, but the kid like walks out of the house in slow motion and a flame appears after each footstep, which is kind of cool. And then he walks outside and he sees the redheaded chick sitting there like, I knew you could do it. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she was like, that was all of our brothers and sisters that died. You were the first one to make it. So she basically is like, I'm your sister and we're both children of the devil. And then the mom comes out behind him, and the redhead is like, yo, you trust this bitch? And the mom hands him a sweater, and the son's like, yeah, I trust her. I'm not even kidding you. They get into the van, and they drive away into the night to see fucking Satan. The daughter's like, Dad wants to meet us or meet you. The son's just like, all right, dope. the daughter, the kid's like, the mom's gonna drive. She looks at the mom's like, you're driving. She's like, okay. She's totally on board with it. Driving the kids into fucking hell, I guess. Unless the dad lives like, well, Satan lives in like Detroit. In which case they're gonna drive to Detroit to see Satan. Okay. So obviously, I'm putting my notebook away. Obviously the ending was a little out of left field. If I'm being honest, I didn't like it too much. I liked most of the movie. Thought it was really good up until the end. The very end. I thought it would have been better, honestly, if the kid was actually sick with something. And the doctor was just trying to do experiments on his type of sickness. And the parents didn't find out until later. And then it was too late. And then the kid ends up like dying or something. I don't know. But it just seemed completely like weird that, oh, just kidding, he actually has superpowers and he's the son of the devil. And they don't really explain it, but I think the point is that a lot of moms end up praying to the devil to get pregnant, and then when they do, the kids always get born with like evil in them, and the nurse's job is to try to like get rid of the evil in the kids, but it hasn't worked yet. But somehow people keep paying these people to do it. Like I said, the ending just seems not really fleshed out at all. Kind of thrown together last minute just to get some cool shots, which there were for sure. They make some comment like, oh, we've been working with these people for longer than you know. So they've been like injecting the kid with holy water to make him sick. I don't know. It seems like a lot of work for no reason. The kid, they didn't even set it up by like the kid has evil tendencies or anything. So I think they're trying to make some metaphors like, oh, everyone is born with evil in them, which is where I thought they were trying to go with this whole movie. I thought it was going to be a huge allegory to religion and how we're all born with sin, and it doesn't matter what we do, like we have to get it purged from our system, and that's what she does, the nurse or the doctor. But no, none of that. The kid's just the son of Satan, and he kills everyone. And they end it like like it's an origin story for a superhero movie, where it's like, okay, now we go see the person who's going to train us how to use our flame powers and telekinesis. Just very kind of disconjointed, which is really unfortunate, honestly. I thought the movie had very good potential overall, so it was kind of sad to see it devolve into such nonsense. I would still recommend it because the scene where he gets dragged down the hallway is fucking dope. And I got goosebumps, and I don't usually like stuff in horror movies anymore. Like that, I mean. I don't get all amped up and excited for certain shots, but that one really got me. Really rustled my jimmies. So if you like stuff like that, definitely give it a shot. If not, I mean, still give it a shot. Just know that at the end, it fucking goes off the rails in a weird direction. Wish I watched this with Alexandra, but it was just me. She usually points out the better things in movies and kind of changes my mind a little bit. But it was just me and my cynical self. So I had no choice but to kind of tear things apart in this movie. So perhaps it tainted my view a little bit. I don't know. But it was a fun experience. Definitely not the worst movie I've seen in a long time. Nope, there are definitely worse movies. On Netflix, especially. Sorry, Netflix. We will never be sponsored by Netflix, so it doesn't matter. Movies like The First Summoning, which I reviewed, which Alexandra and I both reviewed, which you should go check out. But other than that, I think that's all I gotta say about this freaking movie. A lot of ups and downs. I still don't really know how I feel about it. I'm still kind of processing it. But yeah, definitely a decent movie. I hope this child actor goes places, man. He was definitely really good. Like when he was crushed and his family didn't believe him. Ugh, I felt it. I know what that feels like. That poor kid. But yeah, that was my review. This is my first solo review. Hope I did all right. Hopefully my next one could be a little more lively and upbeat and vocal and loud and. This is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legend. No, I'm kidding. Alright, thanks for listening. Tune in next time when we get to episode 9, which I don't know what I'll be watching. Hopefully, I can find something by Saturday, in which case I will record and upload all in one day. Peace out.